Welcome back to the EMT Spots Blood Pressure Podcast. I'm Samuel Harrison, and with me today is Olivia Harper.
It's great to be here.
So today we're going to be diving into something pretty interesting. Um, have you ever felt like you were on the same wavelength as someone you know?
Yeah, definitely. Like when you're really connecting with someone.
Yeah, exactly. And it turns out that might not just be a figure of speech. Um, there's some fascinating research suggesting that our hearts can actually synchronize with each other, like literally beat in sync.
It's pretty amazing when you think about it. We often talk about feeling connected to others, but what if there's a physiological basis for that connection?
That's what we're going to be exploring today, the science of heart rhythm synchronization.
Exactly. We'll be looking at the research, what it tells us about how our hearts communicate with each other.
So to start off, let's talk about heart rate variability, or HRV.
Right. So HRV is basically the variation in the time intervals between your heartbeats.
So it's not just how fast or slow your heart's beating,
Uh-huh.
but the pattern of those beats.
Exactly. And what's interesting is that a healthy heart doesn't beat like a metronome, perfectly regular.
Oh, really? So a little bit of variation is actually a good thing.
Yes, it's a sign of a resilient nervous system that can adapt to different situations.
Okay, so how does HRV tie into this idea of heart rhythm synchronization?
Well, our HRV patterns actually reflect our emotional state, and when we connect with others, our nervous systems can influence each other's HRV, leading to a synchronization of our heart rhythms.
Wow, so our hearts are kind of like having a conversation on a subconscious level.
You could say that. And this connection is especially strong between mothers and their infants.
Oh, that's right. I've heard about that. Like how a mother's heartbeat can soothe a crying baby.
It's more than just soothing. Studies have shown that when mothers and infants interact face to face, their heart rhythms actually synchronize within seconds.
Wow, that's incredible. Just by looking at each other and interacting.
It's an unconscious process, but it seems to play a crucial role in a baby's development.
So the synchronization is setting the stage for a baby's social and emotional development.
Precisely. This early heart rhythm synchronization is linked to the development of empathy, social skills, and even the ability to regulate emotions later in life.
Pretty amazing. It makes you wonder if this heart synchronization happens in other relationships too, not just between mothers and infants.
You're absolutely right. And the answer is yes. Research has shown that heart rhythm synchronization occurs between adults as well, especially those in close, emotionally bonded relationships.
So it's not just a baby thing. Adults can sync up too.
Exactly. And it's not just in romantic relationships either. It can happen between friends, family members, even between therapists and their clients.
That's fascinating. So what are some examples of how this heart synchronization shows up in adult relationships?
Well, one study that I found particularly interesting involved a firewalking ceremony.
Firewalking, it sounds intense.
It is. And the researchers found that the participants, those actually walking across the hot coals, synchronized their heart rhythms with the spectators who were emotionally connected to them.
Wow. So just by watching someone do something intense, our hearts can start beating in sync with theirs.
It seems that way. And the study actually found that spectators who weren't as emotionally invested in the participants didn't show the same level of synchronization.
Okay, so it's not just the excitement of the event that's causing everyone's heart rates to go up. There's something more to it.
Exactly. It seems like there's a deeper connection at play, something that goes beyond just a shared experience.
This is wild. But how is this even possible? Is there some invisible string connecting our hearts?
Well, not exactly, but there's a fascinating theory about the heart's magnetic field.
Wait, our hearts have magnetic fields.
Yes, and they're much stronger than the brain's magnetic field, about 100 times stronger, in fact.
Wow, I had no idea. So how do these magnetic fields play a role in heart rhythm synchronization?
Well, these fields aren't just some random phenomenon. They actually carry information about our emotional state.
So our hearts are essentially broadcasting our emotions through these magnetic fields.
It's a mind-blowing concept, and some scientists believe that this could tie into principles of quantum physics, suggesting a level of interconnectedness in living systems that we're only just beginning to understand.
This is already so much to take in, and we've only just scratched the surface.
There's a lot more to explore. And in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be delving into the concept of heart coherence and how it relates to this phenomenon of heart rhythm synchronization.
I can't wait to hear more about that.
So we've been talking about how our hearts can synchronize with each other.
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about, right? Like our hearts are actually communicating on some level.
Exactly. And this leads us to the concept of heart coherence.
Heart coherence. Now, I've heard that term before, but I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Yeah, it's often misunderstood.
Yeah.
So heart coherence is basically a state where your heart rhythm patterns become more ordered and stable.
Okay, so it's not just about having a regular heartbeat, but about the pattern of those variations between beats being more organized.
Exactly. And when we're in a state of heart coherence, our heart rate variability becomes more balanced and harmonious.
And why that important?
Well, it turns out that heart coherence is linked to a whole host of benefits, both physically and emotionally.
Like what?
Well, for starters, it can lower our stress levels, improve our focus, boost our immune system, even help us sleep better.
Wow, that's quite a list. So
Yeah.
how do we achieve this heart coherence?
One of the key factors seems to be the cultivation of positive emotions.
Really? So you're saying that feeling emotions like love, gratitude, compassion can actually impact the pattern of our heart rhythms?
It's pretty amazing, right? When we experience positive emotions, our nervous system shifts into a state of relaxation and balance, which in turn creates a more coherent heart rhythm pattern.
That makes sense. So by consciously choosing to focus on positive emotions,
Yeah.
we can actually influence our heart coherence.
Exactly. And there are specific techniques that can help us do this, like heart-focused breathing and guided imagery.
Okay, so let's say we're practicing these techniques and we're starting to experience more heart coherence. What happens then?
Well, remember how we talked about the heart's magnetic field?
Yeah. You said it's like 100 times stronger than the brain's magnetic field.
Right. Well, when we're in a state of heart coherence, our heart's magnetic field becomes more coherent as well.
So it's like our hearts are sending out a clearer signal.
You could say that. And this coherent magnetic field can actually influence the heart rhythms of those around us.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
So by becoming more coherent ourselves, we might actually be helping others to become more coherent too.
It's an incredible possibility. And it ties into this idea of collective coherence, where groups of people can synchronize their heart rhythms and create a powerful, energetic field.
So it's not just about individual benefits, it's about the impact we can have on others and the world around us.
Precisely. Imagine the possibilities if we could harness this power of heart coherence to create more harmonious and peaceful communities and even a more coherent world.
It's a beautiful vision.
Yeah.
And it all starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own internal state, cultivating heart coherence within ourselves so that we can radiate that coherence outwards.
That's the key. And the more people who practice heart coherence, the greater the potential for a collective transformation.
It's like a ripple effect of positivity spreading from one heart to another.
Exactly. And it's something that's accessible to everyone.
This is truly inspiring stuff, and it
Yeah.
makes me wonder what other hidden potentials lie within our hearts just waiting to be unlocked.
I think there's still so much we don't know, but the more we explore the science of the heart, the more we realize just how powerful and interconnected we truly are.
This has been an incredible conversation, and in the next part of our deep dive, we'll be exploring some practical tips and techniques for cultivating heart coherence in our everyday lives. Welcome back to the EMT Spot's Blood Pressure Podcast. We've been talking about heart rhythm, synchronization, and heart coherence.
It's really fascinating stuff, isn't it?
It is, and it makes you wonder how we can actually apply this knowledge in our everyday lives.
Well, one of the most practical things we can do is to start cultivating heart coherence within ourselves.
And how do we do that?
Well, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but one of the simplest and most effective techniques is heart-focused breathing.
Right, where you focus on your breath and imagine it flowing through your heart center.
Exactly. And while you're doing that, you can also recall a positive feeling or memory, something that brings you joy and gratitude.
So it's kind of like a 2-for-1. You're calming your nervous system and boosting your positive emotions at the same time.
Precisely. And the more you practice this, the easier it becomes to access that state of heart coherence.
It's like building a muscle, but for your heart.
Exactly. And as you strengthen that heart coherence muscle, you'll start to notice the benefits in all areas of your life.
Like what?
Well, you might find that you're less reactive to stress, you're able to focus better, you have more energy, your relationships improve, even your sleep quality might get better.
Wow, that's amazing. So by simply focusing on our breath and cultivating positive emotions, we can actually create a ripple effect of positivity that extends outward.
Absolutely. It's like we become a beacon of coherence, radiating that energy to those around us.
It's a beautiful thought. And it makes me hopeful that we can actually create a more coherent world, one heart at a time.
I agree. It starts with each of us taking responsibility for our own internal state and making a conscious effort to cultivate heart coherence.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this incredible deep dive into the world of heart rhythm, synchronization, and heart coherence.
It's been a pleasure exploring this with you.
Likewise. And a huge thank you to all of our listeners for joining us on this journey.
We hope you found it informative and inspiring.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the EMT Spot's Blood Pressure Podcast and share it with your friends and family.
And remember, keep those hearts beating in sync.
I'm Samuel Harrison.
And I'm Olivia Harper.
Thanks again for listening.